conference is the gospel, preaching the gospel, getting the gospel right. And so, by definition, when we speak of gospel, the gospel is the announcement of good news. Specifically, it is the announcement of God's salvation of fallen humanity through the person and work of his Son, Jesus Christ. Now, any announcement of good news corresponds to a situation of bad news. So in other words, wherever, whenever, and wherever there is good news, there must be corresponding bad news in order for the good news to be good. In fact, the good news is really presented as a remedy for the bad news. Now, in what I'd like to do tonight in this particular address is I'd like to establish the context for the good news that is announced in the gospel by unpacking the bad news for which it is the remedy. So here's the bad news. The bad news is this. The sin of Adam, who was our federal head, placed all of humanity under the curse of God's wrath. Therefore, all who are born of Adam are helpless and hopelessly condemned. That's bad news. Now here's what makes it even worse. You can't pray your way out of that situation. You can't work your way out of that situation. And you can't plead your way out of that condemnation. There's not enough tears. There's not enough promises that you can make. The bad news, one part of the bad news, is that we are under the curse of God because of Adam's sin. However, that's not enough. So what I want to do tonight is unpack this proposition along 4 lines. First, we want to consider the glory of God in man's creation. It's not just some good news that God saves, but we want to look at the tragedy of the fall. So we want to look at the glory of God in man's creation. Secondly, we will look at the federal headship of Adam. Thirdly, we will consider the nature and the implications of Adam's sin. And then fourthly, we will consider the effects of Adam's sin. And